Hi, my name's Evan, and today I'm going to give you my honest review of the Golden Age Project Pre-73 Mark IV, the newest iteration, the fourth iteration of Golden Age Project's, emulation of the classic preamp from Neve. This is a great little preamp unit. Towards the end of this video, I'll play you plenty of demos of the Pre-73 on bass, guitar, acoustic guitar, and on vocals. And I think my overall conclusion is that this is an amazing solution for recording bass, acoustic, and for clean guitar. I didn't love it for vocals. It wasn't terrible, but it didn't add that 100% magic. This is absolutely the way to record bass. It's just, you plug it in and it sounds perfect, as you'll hear. I also didn't really like the sound of this when it was driven. Once you start to purposefully saturate it, it started to sound a little, just not musical to me. I would rather use other tools for saturation than the preamp in this, at least for guitar, vocals, or bass. But you'll hear some demos of that. Before we start getting into the features of this, though, I do want to thank Golden Age Project for sending me the demo unit to review. This is not a free copy. This is just something that I've been demoing for the past month. Let's look about what's on the front and the back, and then we'll listen to some of the demos and I'll give you some of my thoughts. So starting from the front, you've got the power switch on off. These are some pretty tiny switches here. So if you just got to be careful with them. They don't feel like the sturdiest thing if you have a heavy duty studio, but if you're using them regular studio use, it should be fine. And then to the front of that, you kind of have what they call the DI in. So this is where you would plug your bass or your guitar in, any 1/4-inch input. And there is a DI button to activate, which turns on this input, which then turns off the in and the insert inputs here. So it kind of takes over, which is great because that means basically you can leave the insert and the microphone plug in here all the time. And then if you want to plug in your guitar, you can just hit the DI button and this will take over. You also have a low Z button here if you don't have a very high output on your guitar. Next, you have the 48-volt phantom power switch for the microphone plug-in in the back. And also if you want to switch on the line level if you need to get a signal boost. Then you have the gain, and it's nice and stepped. But honestly, I felt like most of the time because I didn't like the sound of the way this saturates that much. I honestly was probably never turning it past, 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock? 9 o'clock. Usually between 7, 9, is maybe 10 o'clock is where I was keeping it. You really got to use your ears to listen to how things break up. You might like it. You might like the saturation, but for me, there's subtle saturation down here, the unintentional, just what the warmth this adds. And to me, that sounds great. The weight and the fullness. But once you start getting up there, I just really didn't like it. There is also a high pass at 80 hertz or 200 hertz, or the option to switch it off. This is a very subtle high pass. I think if I had to guess, it's like a 6 dB slope. It is not one of those hard, everything under 80 or anything under 200 goes away. It's very musical, which I think is useful for a lot of instruments. But sometimes you may want something more extreme. So, make your first cut here. And then when you go and are mixing, you may want to be more extreme with what you're doing with your low pass filtering. You also have an air EQ here, which offers you the option to boost at by 3 dB or 6 dB. And I don't remember the exact frequency range, but it's pretty high up there. For me, I didn't find this to be that helpful, to be honest. I recorded female vocals, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, bass through this. And I just didn't really find I ever really wanted to be baking that in, especially because there's always a chance that I can get shrill. So for me, I did not really use that very much. And then finally, you have an output pad here to either keep it neutral or a 14 dB output pad, and then the output knob. And what Golden Age Project recommends, and what I found to be really the best result, is to keep this preamp, the input signal pretty low and the output cranked as the starting point for getting your sound, because that way, basically there's two separate saturation circuits. You can saturate the output or the input, but you get the better results doing it this way by keeping the full gain at the back end and keeping the front end on the lower end. You also have monitoring here. I believe that this is only the output monitoring. I could totally be wrong, but it would be nice to have a separate input of the input monitoring to see what you're doing, to see where you're breaking up. Sometimes it was hard for me to hear the saturation when I was monitoring it live until I hit record, like especially with an acoustic guitar. You're just not gonna hear, if you're playing it live and you don't have a separate control room or something, like most of us, most people that are buying things in the Golden Age project budget probably don't have a separate control room for monitoring things. So if you're trying to like track your acoustic guitar and get your input and your output set up, it's kind of hard to hear how much saturation is going on as you're strumming, even with the microphone or with the headphones cranked up. So it would be nice if there had been input, an input meter here, or the option to switch between input or output metering, just so that you know if you're getting too much saturation just by visual feedback, as opposed to audio feedback where it's like, oh, I got to sit, record, hit stop, go see if everything's working. So that would be my only real major criticism. So let's now take a listen to it. I guess I should say in terms of build quality, this chassis feels really solid. It's metal of some sort. You've got TRS inputs with a locking input here, but not on the output. The power supply doesn't have a wall wart, which I love. The transformer's kind of in the middle of it, which is great, so you don't have to take up like 50 spaces with the plug. Like I said, the front switches are a little, they feel well built, but certainly I would not want to bring this on the road. Aside from the price, at which point you're like, okay, yeah, just bring it on the road. Oh, and I forgot to mention there's also a polarity switch. Let's listen to those demos. All right, so let's listen to some examples. I've also got Arturia's Pre-73 emulation of this up, which also is a pretty good emulation of it, just so you can hear kind of the difference. So we'll listen to it unprocessed first, and then we'll turn the plug-in in just so you can kind of hear what it sounds like. To me, far and away, the bass through the actual 73, the Golden Age 73 sounds the best. You'll notice some extra low-end weight and just the right type of subtle saturation. But then when we try and overdrive the saturation later on, you'll hear that doesn't really work as well for me on the bass. So let's listen. Totally clean. This is 73. Now this is the Arturia 73. So for my money, the Golden Age project version of this sounds the best. Arturia version sounds nice, definitely, but it just, there's that little extra low end and just kind of that fun saturation when you're not driving it too hard on the bass that I love. But now let's listen to what happens when you kind of try and overdrive the bass. And to me, this isn't as musical, the way the saturation works on the bass, overdriven. So just like the frequencies that it saturates, I think feel kind of a little gritty, a little sandpaperish. It's not like, it doesn't feel like it's kind of an across the spectrum saturation, which is more what I like with a bass saturation, or something that's actually much harsher that you can blend in. To me, this is kind of neither nor for saturated bass or for driven bass. But as we'll hear, it actually works pretty well on acoustic, or well, sorry, pretty good on electric guitar. So you just got to pick your battles. Now we'll listen to the guitar through the 73, the Golden Age 73, and a guitar clean. And I got to apologize in advance. I just moved, and my guitar's intonation got messed up in the move, so you'll definitely hear some tuning issues, but you should still be able to hear the fatness and sort of the richness that the Golden Age project is imparting. So to me, the Golden Age project just adds a little bit of warmth, a little bit of, again, that fatness and that blurriness that helps fill up the spectrum a little bit more than just unprocessed sounds do. And it can really help fill out a mix if you run a few instruments, through a preamp as opposed to, or through a more colorful preamp, I guess, than just the clean ones that come standard with most audio interfaces. Now let's just take a listen to sort of the same thing, but when I'm trying to actually intentionally overdrive the guitar now, using the preamp on the 73. And I think this actually sounds really good as kind of a clean distortion, so to speak. It's still, it's got that grit to it. It cuts through the mix, but it's still very clear what the guitar is playing. It's not overly distorted by any means. And I think that's a really nice sound that is hard to get digitally. Especially if you're doing more old sounding music. And if you can get that through an amp, but if you live in an apartment like me, you can't really get the amp at the right gain stage spot to break up just so. So to me, this is really useful for that. Next, I've recorded kind of a lead guitar lick that I've driven, but it's otherwise clean. It's just driving the preamp again, and this is a really nice sound to me. So, right, that's a really fat guitar tone, not overdriven, but driven. So it's got some bite to it, and it can cut through a mix, but it's not taking up all the sonic space. And I like that sound a lot, especially if you start thinking about adding a touch of reverb and delay to that. I think you get really nice sounds. Now we'll listen to an acoustic guitar, and this again is recorded first without the 73 and then through the 73, and I really like what it was doing here as well. To me, that genuinely, I know the term warmth is thrown around a lot, but that really did warm it up to me. Just the richness of the harmonics there throughout, and a little bit of sparkle. I was not using the air boost. Unfortunately, I don't have a demo of that for you, but just to my own ears, I didn't really like that, the way that sounded. But, to me, the just running, running many of these instruments through the Golden Age project sounded a lot better. I've also got some vocals here. I didn't really like the vocals through the 73, to be honest. We'll listen to them clean. This is sort of just a real simple, my wife just messing around singing do, re, mi or whatever. But you can hear kind of what they do to vocals, what it does to vocals.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, fa, sol, la, mi, re, do, mi, so, re, fa, la, ti, do, mi.
So that's clean. And this is with the 73.
Mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, fa, sol, la, mi, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, do, mi, fa, fo, ma, re, blah, blah.
So, the harmonic, like, it seemed to add almost too much air to, her voice. Maybe with a man's voice, it would, the harmonics would line up a little better with the range. But at least for a woman, I with a higher pitched voice, to me that really was less pleasant than the clean. The harmonics were a little harsh to my ear. So those are my two thoughts, more than my 2 cents on the Golden Age project pre-Mark IV. Hopefully it helps you make your decision deciding whether or not this is a good choice for you. If it is, I want to let you know that I've got an affiliate link down below where you can grab it and help support the channel. And if not, hope you find something that works really good for you.